Hey there, Tyson Sharp here. If you're a spiritual entrepreneur and you're looking to build business success through a community, and you're looking to do that especially by building content that connects, this is the episode for you. Let's dive in. Okay, online family. Welcome back to another episode of the Awaken Your Business podcast. I have Lauren Turton here, just pronouncing her name Turton. Turton.
You did a wonderful job.
We pronounce it in very, very weird ways here in Australia, but this conversation is all about building community, doing so through content that connects. And as soon as Lauren wrote this down on the form that I fill out for all the podcast guests, I was like, yes, let's not change anything, because this is what I've been doing for the last few years. And everyone asks me, how have you been building the serving circle? How have you created a community that comes together in this way, where the energy especially is there? This is how. It's all about building community. It's doing it through content that helps people connect with you. And, I would add in there, it's about getting to know people and actually coming from a heart-centered space, maybe something we can talk about as well. But I'd love to introduce Lauren, love to introduce what you're all about. How about you share with the audience who it is you are, how it is that you got to do all of this in helping coaches and helping, spiritual entrepreneurs do what they do.
So I'm Lauren Turton, and it's an honor to be here today with you and to be here and showing up for your community. As you said, I do help spiritual facilitators align their energy internally and scale their business to 10K or more a month. And I'm really excited and thrilled and happy about where I am in my life right now, but this isn't where I always was. I'm a 5-time college dropout. I was a career bartender for over 10 years, working in some gnarly dive bars in the Midwest of America. I moved to San Diego when I was 26 years old, which is almost 10 years ago. And I worked in the event production industry for several years and also in the nightclubs in San Diego. And so my journey to get to where I am today is, I think, an interesting one. And I hope it inspires other people to know that no matter where you are right now, if you have a goal you want to achieve, you can achieve it. I am living proof of that. So about 3 years ago, the event production company that I had spent 5 tumultuous years at went under. And at that time, I decided, all right, Lauren, it's time to fully go all in on having your own company. But what are you going to do? And the things that I knew how to do were from the event production world. It was photo shoot management, video production, some branding, some marketing. And so I started offering those services. And I wrapped up my first year of business with 15 amazing clients. I was super proud of what I had been able to do in such a short amount of time. But I knew that if I kept offering these services, I would always be working with my clients physically, which is the same as the event production world, physical in-person work. So I quickly stopped taking clients and threw myself into learning all about creating an online-based business. And when I say I threw myself into it, I spent the entire month of February 2018 in my office for 10 to 12 hours a day learning ClickFunnels. That is how dedicated I was to learning creating an online-based business. And so I started offering services online. And soon I realized, wait, I just created my own online-based business and I'm doing it. I can help other people do this. And at that same time, I was going through my spiritual awakening, and the wellness, healing, and spiritual community meant so much to me, because by going to their, circles, their events, that is what ignited me. And so I started gearing my marketing towards that community and serving that community so that they could get out of the physical one-on-one retreat only type space and get their businesses online so they could have a larger impact.
Beautiful. Beautiful. What were you doing in terms of your own spiritual growth? Were you doing any particular practices or meditations or following any particular scripture? What were you doing?
So I went to an open house at a wellness space in San Diego, and I tried all different types of services. I tried like energy work. I tried, you know, different, like they were doing different like facials, but more like in the energy space, not just like a regular facial. And I was really touched by what took place that day. I could feel something happening. And so I did a consultation with the owner, and she said, you know, you might want to try breath work. And so I went to my first breath work circle on a Sunday night, and my life was changed instantly. It felt like I had gone into 10 years of therapy in just a 45-minute session. So that is a practice that I dove heavily into. And I'm still really involved in, because I just love how quick it brings up stuff and you're able to face it and deal with it and then move on.
Perfect. That's so cool. And I love how it's sort of like you're integrating a few things that are happening in your life, not only your own spiritual awakening, but also your learning online business. You're like, let's combine the two and stick to what I'm passionate about. I think that's why it's so cool when people are building a community. There's no right or wrong way to do it, but you can just do it in whatever way that's aligned for you, you know? And so that's what I did with the Serving Circle, is combine all my different passions in terms of personal development, spirituality, business, collaborations and connecting, all these different things. I just combined them all into one community and just rock and roll. I just basically built it for me in ways that put me in alignment. And then if other people benefit as a byproduct, then they get my heart as well, you know?
It's amazing. And the thing that, you know, we need to bring to light with this is that you showed up. And you showed up consistently. And that is also what brought this group of people together. And that, I think, is one of the key things when it comes to building community, is you have to show up.
Yeah.
You're building a community. You're the leader. You have to show up. And we touched on it earlier with the content that you're putting out there into the world. You have to show up by putting content out there. That is going to be one of the main ways that you build a community, is by showing up with content. Unless you're using paid ads. If you're not using paid ads, you're all organic. And to be all organic means you need to be posting 4, 5, 6, 7 times a week, showing up.
Yeah, totally. So what is it that you did once you realized, okay, I want to serve this community. They've helped me so much. I want to use my business acumen to help them make a bigger impact. What is it that you did next? Did you build your own community in a certain way? There's certain ways in which you got out there and you started showing up. What was that like?
I started consistently showing up, and that's when I really noticed that a community started forming. And I would say I really hardcore started showing up about 6 months ago. And that's when things really started to fall into place, is again, because I was just consistently showing up, posting content 5 to 7 days a week that was value driven and that connected with my audience. Showing up weekly in my Facebook community, Soul Career Clarity. I would have weeks when no one would log on, but I showed up anyway. And you know what? Somebody would watch the replay later on in the week, and it was something for them, even though they weren't there on the live. And so I just kept showing up. And then also I've been able to build my community by reaching out to other people who have a community that's similar to mine and speaking on their platforms like I'm doing today.
Awesome. And I think there's so many ways in which you can do that. You can expand by giving value. You can expand by collaborating with other people in endless ways. But like you said, you showed up. You completely just said, if I'm doing this live, no one shows up, I'm not doing it for them. I'm doing it for me, because this is a place where I get to consistently be who I am in my alignment, and then other people will benefit, even if they watch the replay, even if they watch it down the road, you know, and you get to grow through that. I love it. So you said I'll go for it.
Another thing I want to add in real quick, just to show what happens when you start showing up. I also started providing free trainings for my community, and I started providing them every couple of weeks. And on my first one, 0 people registered. The next one, 2 people registered. The one after that, 6 people registered. And then the one after that, 58 people registered. And I'm on the next one now, and it's still a week out, and I have 40, 50 people that have registered. And that just shows you what happens when you start showing up consistently, the momentum that comes behind that. So if you're someone right now and you're scared to show up, you're scared to take that first step, I encourage you, take that first step, show up, and then be consistent.
Okay, gotcha. I got a couple questions there. One of them, what was going through your mind when 0 people showed up? What was going through your mind? What was going through your body? What emotions came up? What happened when 0 people showed up?
You know, for me, at this point in my life, I have experienced so many ups and downs in business that I have been able to learn to detach myself from certain emotional reactions when it comes to business. So when 0 people registered, I was just like, all right, cool, I can practice.
Yeah, nice.
And I also was like, oh, this is great. I'm going to record it and this is content I can use for later on. So I just looked at it as practice and content for later on.
Yeah. And it's just feedback, you know, it's just like there's 0 people who have signed up. Okay. Why might that be? Not only in terms of the feedback, in terms of your messaging and your content and that sort of thing, but like, what am I here to learn? I'm here to learn. Okay. Just remind myself, separate from this. And then how can I use it? Okay. I'll record it, use some other content and, you know, and use this time wisely. And
Exactly.
my next question is, what do you think was different from going from 0 to 2 to 6 and to get to 58? Was there something you tested and tweaked in terms of your content or in terms of the business strategy, or do you think it just took some momentum? What do you think happened there?
So one thing that I've learned over the last couple of years of having my own business is that when you share the lows or the quote unquote failures that you're going through, that resonates so much more with people than when you're only sharing the highs. So when I've been in situations where like 0 people registered, or for example, I released a book in fall of 2020 and my release date was set for like October 1st. October 1st came and went. I messed up on formatting. I couldn't get the book out for a month later. And I was mortified, absolutely mortified. It was embarrassing, very public situation. And I said to myself, you know what? Talk about it. Talk about it. Share what is actually happening with you. And from what I've found with having like 0 people register, you know, not being able to make my book release date, sharing those moments have made people be able to connect with me further and actually relate to me and resonate with me, which has helped me build up my community. I'll receive messages from people, Lauren, when you shared that you went through that hard time, or when you went through blah, 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 I related to that so much. Thank you for inspiring me. And so that's been something that I've found to be very interesting, is anytime I'm going through something that might be not good, I'm like, all right, put it out there. I'm going to share this anyway.
It seemed like you connected with them because you were connecting with you. It's like all this, and everyone listening here can register if they've got some challenges coming up right now. They're facing some ups and downs. They're facing some roadblocks. It seems like when you can show up and be there for the side of you that's freaking out, and you can come to terms with, you know, what's emerging, and you can come to terms with, you know, separating yourself from what's happening in the external circumstances. You connect with yourself in a different way, and therefore you can now share that. You can share it with other people, and the energy around it seems to shift. Right. What did you find happened within you when you started sharing it? Was there a release? Was there a deeper connection? What happened there?
One thing I've gone through in the last year or so that I'm thankful that 2020 has brought forth is the need not to be perfect, especially online. I feel like we had gotten to this space where we had to be so right and perfect on social media, and everything had to be just so. Where, you know, 2020 showed us that life truly is not perfect. And by sharing the highs and the lows, again, it causes for deeper connection within your community.
Perfect. And why do you think building a community is such an opportunity right now? Why do you think the opportunity is there? Why do you think it's here? Because I know a lot of people are trying to focus on expanding content and getting more and more reach and just have more and more views and followers and that sort of thing. What you're focused towards here is building an intimate community of people that you're consistently showing up for. Why do you think that is the biggest opportunity right now? How do you think that'll help people move forward with their businesses?
Well, first of all, people need community more than ever now. we aren't doing the things we used to do physically by going to events, restaurants, whatever it is. I know different parts of the world have different stories right now, but in general, people aren't doing that as much. And also people are going through massive shifts over the last year. Either they lost their job or their business shut down, whatever it is, massive, massive shifts took place. So people are searching for like-minded individuals that they can connect with. And so by building your intimate community right now, it's just essential for your business. And something that's come up in the last week or so, and I might be jumping ahead in this, but it just came to me and I got to share it. With building a community, think about all the members of a community. There's all different types of members in a community. There's the leader, there's the right-hand person, there's, the note taker, there's the people who sit in the back, there's the guy who plays music. Like, there's so many different people that make up a strong community. And you might have different people that come in and out of your community, but they're all valuable assets to it. They're all needed. And the reason why this has come up is because I had a client who was concerned about people who were going to attend his free trainings, but not buy anything. Well, what if they come to all my free trainings and they don't end up buying anything? I'm like, so what? Why do you care? That person's just as important. Imagine if it was an in-person event and you were speaking and there were 20 people there in a room and 3 people bought your offer, but then you had all of the other people there and you got to impact those people. I'm like, you need every community member there to create a thriving community. So I would say, as you're creating community, don't focus on, these little micro things that might come up. Focus on the big picture here. Again, your goal is to build an empire, and you need a strong community to build your empire.
Totally. And like I said, they're after what you have. They're looking for connection. They're looking for community. Connection. So yes. what would you say to someone who's like, yeah, I'd love to start a community, but I might be late to the game, or everyone else has a community, is what can I offer that's different? What would you say to someone that's coming up with those sort of fears? Well, first of all, remember, you are you. You are you, and nobody else is you. What you have to offer is so special and so unique, and you are going to attract the right people, like-minded people into your community. But before you can do all of that, you need to start showing up. So figuring out the logistics, what type of container is it going to be in? What are the rules? What's going to be happening in this container? And then from there, consistently showing up and consistently providing value. Yeah. And so what does showing up mean to you? Does it mean creating consistent content? Does it mean putting some intention behind it? Does it mean reaching out to members and building relationships? What is showing up specifically for you? All of the above. And so I want to break that down a little bit further. So when it comes to content creation, people often get overwhelmed with, whoa, you post content 5 to 7 days a week. How do you do that? How do you think of all the content? I'm more than happy to provide for you a blueprint on how I do that. Hit me up afterwards. I'll get that for you so you're not overwhelmed by content creation. But with that being said, I also batch create my content. I spend about an hour every Thursday creating content for the week prior so that I'm not worried about creating content each day. The next step from there is I engage with individuals who engage with my content, and I will slide into the DMs and hold a conversation with them. A way that I've really been able to build my community is by tracking my conversations. I have a spreadsheet dedicated to conversations on Facebook, a spreadsheet dedicated to conversations on Instagram, and I do track them, and I circle back every couple of weeks if I haven't heard from someone and they haven't been engaging with anything, just to check in and see if I can support them in any way. So cool. I do the same, especially with connection calls. If I'm asking someone a question of who can I connect you with, that's an ideal client or a key source of collaboration, I write it down so I don't forget. I get it on a lot of calls, and my memory's not that great, so I need to rely on that sort of stuff. Hey, you sort of touched upon it, but what would you suggest if someone's just getting started? Where do they start? Do they reach out to the 3 friends they have that are like, hey, do you want to put something together and I'll support you in this way? How can how can someone get started in building a community in a way that is sustainable?
I would say model after someone you admire, any leaders that are in a similar space as you. So if you're someone who's like, Lauren Turton, I think she's rad, model after what I'm doing, or model after what he's doing. Don't try to make up your own situation, model after what others are doing, and then also reach out to people. I have been so touched when people have reached out to me and have said, hey, Lauren, I love what you're doing. I'd like to do something similar. How can I do what it is you're doing? I'm like, let's get on a call. Let's talk. I'll tell you everything you need to know. And so that's another thing too, is don't be scared to ask for help as you're starting to build out your community. And I know I've said it like 500 times, but be consistent, show up.
I'll give you a couple more opportunities to say it before we finish up. Because, I mean, it's seriously what people need to hear and need to follow through on. And the reason being, I find, is because you not only build the internal resourcefulness of just like, who do I need to become so I can consistently show up, but you get just that much more feedback. Right? You get that much more feedback when you show up consistently. You find out what's working, what's not working. You find out what your client and your community members want. You find out through the conversations, some different ideas, and you get to co-create with people.
Yes.
It can be very hard earlier on. I find if you have expectations around what it needs to look like. Right?
Yes.
Because everyone's like, how do I start it? I'm only going to have 4 members. I'm like, then have 4 members.
Then have 4 members.
You got 4 people you bless with serving, and it's
yes.
And separating yourself from what it needs to look like, or what your ego thinks it should expand to, or whatever it is. I mean, it really is. There are really no rules here. There are some certain guidelines that might be able to help you, but if you really have something that is on your heart that you want to create, there's no really ways in which you can do that, and other than just following your heart. So that's I'll go on.
And to go with that is launch and then optimize it. Just get it out there and then start figuring out all those details, what it looks like, all of that. But first, you just need to show up.
Yeah, totally. Would that be? What are some of the challenges you've seen with either building a community or creating content? What are some of the common themes, the common challenges that you see run up, especially people in the spiritual entrepreneurial sort of journey?
In the spiritual space, some things that I've seen come up is, and I might hit some nerves on this one, is again, where this community sometimes has this perception of needing to be perfect. And in, the outfits and the hair and the makeup and a certain look and a certain vibe. And although aesthetically they can be beautiful and wonderful, there's almost this space of like non-reality there. And so I want to remind you that you are also human and that you're on this planet Earth right now in this time. And it's okay not to be perfect and not polished and perfected. Just show up and be yourself. We love you for who you are.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you all caught that, but Lauren said, show up. Make sure, make sure you show up consistently. All right. I love it. So what have you seen work within your community as you're expanding, as you're growing, as you're creating content and starting to really get a lot of engagement? What are some things that has there been anything that surprised you? Has there been some things that are working? You're like, I had no clue that was a thing. What are some things that you've learned along your journey?
So some things that I've learned along my journey. So like I said, I have a Facebook community. I show up every Wednesday, 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And something that I realized is no matter how much value I am providing each week, whether it's a 5-minute training up to 30-minute to an hour-long training that sometimes I do, I found that people got tired of seeing me every single week. And that when I brought in a guest speaker, once every 4 weeks or 6 weeks, it ramped up the group again. And so that's something that I was surprised by. The first time I brought in a guest speaker, I was like, oh, that was cool. I didn't expect people to be that excited. And then I waited a few more weeks and I kind of realized that the group was getting a little stale. And I was like, all right, I'm gonna bring in a guest speaker and see what happens. brought in a guest speaker, people ramped it back up again. So I'm finding that my community enjoys when I bring in experts who can speak about a topic that pertains to their business life.
Very cool. And
yeah, super cool. I would have never known.
Yeah, and then you're like, now they love that person more than me. Now I'm jealous.
Like this Wednesday, I have a guest speaker who owns a virtual assistant placement company in the Philippines. And people are jazzed about her talking this week. I can't wait to see this go down.
Yeah. We'll find out, won't we? Well, here's what came up for me. When you're talking about your Thursday sit down where you batch content.
Yeah.
What exactly are you doing there? Are you batching it in for particular topics? What goes through your mind? How do you structure it?
So what I do is I reflect on the week prior and I project on the week coming up. And then I have a variety of topics that I choose from when creating my content: limiting beliefs post, value-driven post, prompts. I have a list about 10 to 12 things that I run through to kind of mix up the content that I'm putting out there. And when I'm projecting into the week coming up, I make sure to check any specials or promotions that I have going on and to include those in the content. One of my favorite pieces of content to write is a weekly celebration post. And you guys can go back and look through my content and check out my weekly celebration post. The reason why I love posting this is because I'm able to highlight things that happened in my week that I normally wouldn't post about. Client successes, my successes, anything that I've been working on behind the scenes. And it's just a really creative way to showcase your business without selling.
Cool. I love it. And does that turn into what you do in that batching piece? Does that turn into written blogs, videos, other posts?
Yes.
What does it look like, and how it gets expanded into the week?
So what I do is I'll map out, all right, next week I'm posting 5 days a week or 7 days a week. And then from there, I'll pick the different categories and I'll have the copy. And from the copy, I'm either able to create a reel, a TikTok, or a video to go with it. And I'll just base it off of the subject in the copy. So copy first.
Beautiful. Has there been a favorite social media platform for you? I know you do have a Facebook community, but have you been exploring things like TikTok and Clubhouse and YouTube and all those different things? What's been your zone?
I absolutely love TikTok. It's epic. The content that is out there is unimaginable how creative it is. Unfortunately, I have not found my TikTok creation style, so I'm more of a consumer on TikTok. I recently have reached over 1,000 followers, which I'm super proud of, and I hope to really find my stride on TikTok because, again, I just love the app. But my primary platform right now is Instagram.
Cool. Beautiful. I think that's the opportunity we have right now, where there's all these different platforms where it taps into a particular strength of someone, and when you do that, you just follow what is in your highest excitement, and therefore you can release content and build a community in a variety of ways. For me, I use Facebook, and I love Facebook. Was a great way for me to build a community. The reason being is because it's very easy to connect with people and send them messages.
Yeah.
Very easy to get on calls with people in terms of, video calls or just to, do an audio call. It was easy way for me to leverage both video and written posts, things like that. So just had everything in there that I needed to sort of launch events and do all these different things and remind people. And so that's what worked for me. Now, some of my clients love TikTok, love Clubhouse, love all these different things that are just completely different. The difference between TikTok and Clubhouse is opposite spectrums, right? But you can ask yourself, what are your strengths? What do you love? What's most exciting to you? And how can you use that medium to release content that's aligned, but to also build your community from that? Put out an offer and have people jump into a community where you can add more further value to them. Right?
And
what are your thoughts?
Something that I was just thinking of is, wow, what an amazing time to live in, where we have all of these outlets and platforms available to us for free.
Mm.
And sometimes people will complain like, oh, now TikTok or, Instagram's pumping out reels. They don't want stagnant. I was like, I heard some people complaining about, I'm like, do you hear yourself? You're using that platform for free. You're not paying for ads. You better learn how to make reels. Stay with the times, sister.
Mm.
Like, this is a free platform. How blessed are we to have this? It's truly amazing when you think about it. And like you said, just figuring out your creation style and what you align and resonate with, and what your audience, where they are hanging out at.
Mm. Totally. I love that. What have you seen has been the types of content, or the tips you have for content that really break through the noise out there? Because everyone's a content creator now. It's a beautiful thing. Everyone. But it's also people almost they're just fighting for the spotlight in a way.
Mm-hmm.
But what have you seen in terms of content that sort of pierce the veil and break through the noise, so that people can be more seen in a strategic way?
Quick wins, how-tos. For example, the 3 steps to, the 5 ways to, and that might sound boring, but when you think about it, if you're scrolling, and you have a problem in your life, and suddenly you see the 3 steps to overcome, you're going to stop and read that. It's very value driven, and then boom, boom, boom. People really resonate when I post that type of content.
Awesome.
It's helpful. It's a quick win.
It is. And it's very easy to see what you're getting from it, right? Yes. It's very easy. It may seem like a pretty solid and classic marketing tactic to have the headline be towards those sort of things. But you got to think in the eyes of the consumer. They're not wanting to spend much brain power on it. And so if they can read the title that says, this is exactly what you're going to get.
Exactly.
3 steps to do this, 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 and this, and overcome this, this, and this. And therefore your mind knows exactly what it's there for, and how to spend however much energy towards it. They can scan through it. They can do whatever they like with it, but they get the value straight off. But if something's complicated and it's confusing and it's within a bunch of riddles, then it's
the worst.
It takes you so much more brain power, and you're just simply not going to read it. Hey,
no, so you're going to keep scrolling. The other thing too is, like you touched on, keeping it simple with your copy. Just be to the point with what you're saying. I see some people out there and their copy, it's very, very long-winded, but then on top of that, it's words and phrases. And it's like, we don't know what you're talking about. So be to the point, because again, we're scrolling. There's a lot of noise going on out there. So just boom, lay it on me. Let me consume, get the value, move on. Yeah.
And that's a good exercise as well. If we're all scrolling, think about what makes you stop and look at something, what makes something stand out, or what makes something, when you're watching a video, to continue watching it. There might be a particular story that's being told. There might be a particular phrase. There might be a particular type of communication. So when you're scrolling through, ask yourself, what makes you stop? What makes you follow someone? What makes you fall in love with them? And you can sort of reverse engineer and say, if that works for them, it might be tapping into something that is my strength, or something that I can really, I can tap into. Hey, what are your thoughts?
And also with that, visually speaking, so something that I will pat myself on the back on is, over the years, I have learned my angles. I have learned good lighting. And I understand what it takes to make a aesthetically pleasing photo or video to post on my social media. So if that's an area that you're challenged in, well, guess what? There's this thing called YouTube, and you can type in YouTube, lighting, composition, know your angles, how to pose. There are so many tutorials out there on how to pose. take the time to indulge in that and learn these basic things for photography and video. And this will also help elevate the content that you're putting out there. I know my angles. As soon as my boyfriend gets the camera out, I'm like, boom, boom, boom. The lighting's over here. Fix this, fix that. Because at the end of the day, I want an aesthetically pleasing photo to present on social media.
Yeah. And it doesn't take too much time to learn the very basics, you know, around video or around, you know, creating photos and even just creating headlines, you know. But understanding the very basics can lead to a lot. It can lead to, it might be the difference between 50 people reading a post to 500 people reading a post, you know. And those fine details really do matter when it comes to the online social media presence and what allows people to stand out. So diving deep into that is a huge difference.
And once you know these strategies, you know them. So yeah, it does take time and effort and energy and work to learn these new things. But again, once you know them, you know them.
Totally. Where do you see this whole opportunity going? Is there in terms of building communities, in terms of creating a theme that people can get around, in terms of giving value, in terms of, you know, having that particular way of building business? Is there anything you see in the future of where we're going or trends that we can be heading on?
So I think history repeats itself. The roaring 20s are about to come up. As soon as we are lifted from all the restrictions, imagine the in-person workshops, retreats, all of those in-person events that we used to have, they are going to be amplified so much when we do open back up, whether that's, you know, the end of this year or even another year down the line. And really, the further we are away from that stuff, the more they're going to be booming when we open back up. So if you start building your online community now, imagine a year from now, a year and a half, 2 years, you could be hosting an in-person retreat on an island somewhere with all of the community members that you cultivated and fostered during lockdown. I know for me, my community is begging for me to throw a retreat in Mexico. I get once a week, hey Lauren, when you throw a retreat? Hey Lauren, I'm waiting for it. Hey Lauren, I'm waiting for it. And I'm just like, as soon as things are safer, I'm gonna do it, just not yet, not time yet. But that's because I have spent the last year and a half really building this online community. So if this is your sign to get started, here it is.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. And yeah, I can just imagine there's so many opportunities with when things open back up, just creative ways to go online and offline with people who you've built relationships with, who have built relationships with each other, who are now like, how can we do things together to help each other move forward in a different way, you know, in a more intimate way, in a more strategic way, in, you know, ways that leverage maybe new technologies that are coming up, whatever it may be. But as long as you have that community who already like, know, and trust you, who fall in love with who and what you are, and you fall in love with them, and you've built that heart-to-heart connection, that's where I see all the values. That's what people are missing. Instead of trying to expand and grow just your numbers, because that's where the reach is, going inward and building that community in a way that's aligned, in a way that's heart-centered, in a way where you're actually pouring love into them. That to me is where, that's like the basis. That's like the base that you build everything else from. Is that what you found?
Completely, 1,000% agree. And what I said earlier, remember when I started talking about the different types of community members? Imagine when things open back up and those people who came to every one of your online offers for free, but never enrolled to be your client, imagine they're now volunteering to be the registration person at your retreat. Like, that's how this is all going to go down once things open back up, because you spent the time cultivating this online community.
Beautiful. I love it. Anything else come up in terms of advice, tips, strategies? If someone's just listening, being like, I'm willing to either start my community or rock and roll with the community that I've built and leveraging it in a new way. Anything else coming to you in terms of some tips?
Yes, either align with a business coach that you will invest in and work with, or a mentor or a business bestie, someone to hold you accountable on this journey. It gets lonely, it gets exhausting, it gets overwhelming. So if you either have the support of a coach, a mentor, or a business bestie, it's going to make this much more enjoyable and much easier, because your family and your friends most likely will not get and understand what you're doing. And you're going to lose some close relationships on this journey as well. And that's fine. It's fine. It's difficult, but it's fine. But if you have a mentor, coach, or business bestie on your side, it's going to be much easier.
Totally. And that's why you can show up.
Yes.
That's why you can consistently show up.
Mm-hmm.
You have those relationships, and you have those, you have the accountability to just be like, this is what we're doing. This is where we're going moving forward. You know, this is the plan. Go ahead and do it. And if you need to post every day, you post every day. If you need to do a live every week, and you know, if you have the accountability, then you're going to consistently do that.
Exactly.
I love it. And it's also being mindful of when you're building a community. This is what I've mostly focused on. It's asking myself the question, the community, building the community is awesome. Building the content to add value is awesome. But it's also asking yourself the question of, you hinted towards it before. It's like, what do they want? What do they want? What are they looking for? What are they after? And so a lot of people are asking themselves the question of, when I build my community, how do I keep them engaged? And I'm like, what will keep them engaged? What will want them coming back? What will want them to invite their friends? What would be add so much more value where they're like, oh my God, I can't not show up each and every week to this person's community because they add that much value. So asking yourself from a place of certainty and confidence, what is it that would make your community different? What is it that would make your members show up consistently and just be there to receive that value? And I think that's where we step into that heart space of just like, how may I serve? How can I serve in a new way? How can I serve in a big way? How can I serve in a connected way? And people will feel that, right?
Exactly. And also remember to be you. Don't try to be somebody else. Show up and be you. If you're goofy, if you're funny, even if you're shy, whatever it is that you are, show up 100% authentically you.
I love it. I love it. It's okay. It's okay to show up authentically you, because here's the thing. If you show up as someone else, they're going to fall in love with that other person. They're not going to fall in love with you. They're going to fall in love with this image that you've portrayed that, you know, you think you should be. So they're not actually going to resonate with you anyway. But if you show up authentically, if you're shy, if you're goofy, if you're out there and loud naturally, I mean, if you show up just authentically, people will know. People know when you're trying to put on an act, when you're trying to be perfect and you're not showing the real you. But that's one of the number one pieces of feedback I get, is people can tell I'm authentic and that I actually care. And and that's just consistently the feedback that I get. So, you know, think about that when you're putting out content, when you're putting out things for your community. How is it you can be more you and live from that way?
Exactly.
That's beautiful. Beautiful. Anything else come to mind? Anything else? Someone's got their phone right like this ready, and they're like, okay, I'm starting my community now. What's your pep talk? What's the next piece of advice?
The next piece of advice is, hold yourself accountable by making a schedule. How many pieces of content are you putting out this next week? When are you batch creating the content? When are you going live? Actually have a game plan for how you're going to move forward. And then also have a game plan with how are you going to authentically connect with your first community members. Go above and beyond for these 4 people that just joined. You're 4 people, and maybe they're your 4 people for months, but it's okay because they're there and they believe in you and you're providing them value. But just having a game plan, like with anything, so that you can move forward with confidence. And then always get client-driven feedback, audience-driven feedback. Ask them, what are you struggling with right now in your business, life, health, whatever your industry is? Ask them. They'll tell you. the kind of content you need to be creating.
So good. I'm moving forward in the next few months. I'm going to be implementing that a lot more, is consistently getting some feedback, consistently moving forward with gaining their insights so I can serve it at a new level, especially for this podcast, especially for the YouTube, all those different things as well.
And that also, it takes the pressure off of you of always having to think of new content to put out there. Just ask them, hey, what do you guys need help with? Oh, I need help with blah, 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 blah. Okay, cool, I got you. And if you don't know the answer, pull from your network of people and bring a guest speaker in.
Totally. Awesome. I love it. So where can people find out more about you, jump into your community? How is it that people can find out how you serve?
So every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, I host trainings in the Soul Career Clarity community, and I would love for you to join us. And you can register by going to join.laurenturton.com.
Easy. Done deal.
Yes, done deal. And my socials are all the same, Lauren Turton, so you can connect with me on Instagram, Facebook, and if you want to see some attempts on TikTok, I'm there as well.
Everyone's going to be jumping on TikTok now. And since you said that, because think about when you think about what people want, like, hey, here's where I'm awesome on Instagram. Here's where I'm awesome on Facebook. Here's where I'm absolutely dodgy. What one do you reckon they're going to join? They're going to join TikTok for sure.
Again, if people do connect when you're not as good as something, you put it out there, they connect with it. I'm a living example. Totally.
I mean, people love joining the collaborative calls when I show up, and I'm like, I've got no clue how this is going to go. No clue what's going to happen. I don't even know what I'm going to say next. Everyone's like, awesome. I'm intrigued. I'm going to see what you're going to do next as well.
Exactly.
Perfect. I love this chat. So many takeaways. I've written down a lot of notes here, but I'll put all the links in the description in the show notes so that people can jump on board and get into your community and just get that value of how they can rock and roll moving forward with their content and with their businesses. Awesome. Any parting words? What else do you have? Anything that you want to add that would make this conversation feel complete?
I said it before and I'm going to say it again. Show up and show up consistently.
I'm just going to have to put that in every second word of the show notes.
Yes.
It's just like show up. Do it consistently. Mm-hmm. You'll build the momentum. You'll obviously get more and more feedback, and you can just test and reiterate moving forward. But who you evolve into by showing up consistently is what's most important now. But Lauren, thank you so much for being on here. Thank you for sharing your wisdom, and thank you for your time. I look forward to seeing what we can co-create next.
Yes.
But thank you so much for all of your wisdom and all these tips as well.
Thank you for having me, and it was an honor to connect with you further and with your audience. I will see you soon.
Awesome. Pleasure.